Hellbound Heathen is a fake witchy practice.
You know what? Hellbound's channel, when he first came out, he was like, "This is me. I am sitting in front of a at the time it was computer screens. At the time he was like sitting at his desk for a lot of them. He's like started using green screen and stuff. And he still does at the desk, but like he was just at the desk talking and he's stating all this knowledge out for you. And point by point stuff, so he was taking other things and then disproving them. And I liked that because it wasn't something that was like,
oh yeah,
insert random. You know what I'm saying? Like, your products are great. I'm not against that, but I'm just saying I found that
Cris is picking fights.
Yeah, having a conversation.
Mr. Crowley, what went on in your head? Oh, Mr. Crowley, did you talk to the dead? Your loss out to me seems so tragic, with the thrill of it all. You fooled the people with magic. Yeah, you're waiting on Satan's call. Mr. Charming, did you think you were pure? Mr. Alarming, in Nocturnal Report, uncovering things that were sacred, manifest on this earth, conceived in the eye of a secret, and they scattered the afterbirth.
Hello, my friends. How are you doing? So I really want to give a big shout out to all my Patreon. Thank you so much. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. It's really been very beneficial. So thank you. Thank you so very much. All of your support helps me to get the word out there and to get my videos more exposure. So I have another wonderful video for you today. It again is going along the same crazy conspiracy that somehow Aleister Crowley was behind the attacks of September 11, 2001. I hope you enjoy, and again, thank you all so very much for your support, and I hope you enjoy this video.
I was fascinated, by your book, and actually never read it.
Yes, these are the kind of insightful, investigative, and thorough minds we will be dealing with.
But I just listened to every single interview that you did.
Cool.
And I was fascinated by the book.
How could you have been fascinated by the book if you never read it?
Because before I even heard of your theory, your belief about...
You mean his delusional idea? The attacks of September 11, 2001 were a series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda. The attacks killed 2,996 people, injured over 6,000 others, and cost $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage.
The planes and the floors they hit and the numbers and the Crowleyism. I always believed that the planes were remote control.
You believe the American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175 were remote controlled? The flight carried 81 passengers and 11 crew members. The 11 crew members were Captain John Ogunwaski, First Officer Thomas McGinnis, and flight attendants Barbara Arestigui, Jeffrey Coleman, Sarah Lowe, Karen Martin, Kathleen Nicosai, Betty Ong, Jean Roger, Diane Snyder, and Amy Sweeney. According to flight attendants Amy Sweeney and Betty Ong, who contacted American Airlines during the hijacking, the hijackers had stabbed flight attendants Karen Martin and Barbara Arestigui and slashed the throats of passenger Daniel Lewin. There were calls made from Flight 11 to the Air Traffic Control Center by a Mohammed Atta at 8:24 a.m. and 8:33 a.m. At 8:46 a.m., Mohammed Atta intentionally crashed American Airlines Flight 11 into the northern facade of the North Tower, Tower 1, of the World Trade Center. The aircraft was traveling at about 465 miles per hour and carried about 10,000 gallons of jet fuel and struck the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floors. United Airlines Flight 175. The flight carried 56 passengers and 9 crew members. The 9 crew members included Captain Victor Saraceni, First Officer Michael Horrocks, and flight attendants Robert Fangman, Amy Jarrett, Amy King, Catherine Labori, Alfred Marchand, Michael Tarao, and Alicia Titus. Flight attendant Robert Fangman, as well as 2 passengers, Peter Hansen and Brian David Sweeney, made phone calls from GTE airphones in the rear of the aircraft. Airphone records also indicate that Garnet Bailey made 4 phone call attempts trying to reach his wife. Fangman called a United Airlines office in San Francisco at 8:52 a.m. and spoke with a Mark Policastro. Fangman reported the hijacking and said that the hijackers were likely flying the plane. He also said that both pilots were dead and that a flight attendant was stabbed. After a minute and 15 seconds, Fangman's call was disconnected. Policastro subsequently made attempts to contact the aircraft's cockpit using the Aircraft Communication Addressing and Reporting System, message system. Brian David Sweeney tried calling his wife, Julie, at 8:58 a.m., but ended up leaving a message, telling her that the plane had been hijacked. He then called his parents at 9 a.m. and spoke with his mother, Louise. Sweeney told his mother about the hijacking and mentioned that passengers were considering storming the cockpit and taking control of the aircraft. At 8:52 a.m., Peter Hansen called his father, Lee Hansen, in Easton, Connecticut, telling him of the hijacking. Hansen was traveling with his wife, Sue, and 2.5-year-old daughter, Christine. Peter placed the call to his father from seat 30E. Speaking softly, Hansen said that the hijackers had commandeered the cockpit, that a flight attendant had been stabbed, and that possibly someone else in the front of the aircraft had been killed. He also said that the plane was flying erratically. Hansen asked his father to contact United Airlines, but Lee could not get through and instead called the police. Peter Hansen made a second phone call to his father at 9 a.m. saying, "It's getting bad, Dad. A stewardess was stabbed. They seem to have knives and mace. They said they have a bomb. It's getting very bad on the plane. The plane is making jerky movements. I don't think the pilot is flying the plane. I think we're going down. I think they intend to go to Chicago or someplace and fly into a building. Don't worry, Dad. If it happens, it'll be very fast." At exactly 9:03 a.m., Flight 175 crashed nose first into the southern facade of the South Tower of the World Trade Center at a speed of approximately 590 miles per hour and striking between floors 77 and 85 with approximately 10,000 gallons of jet fuel. Neither of these aircraft were remote controlled.
And
I still believe that. I think they're remote controlled, but I think that they ritualized the whole thing. They ritualized that.
You believe that all of this was for some bizarre ritual? That nearly 3,000 people died and 6,000 more were injured, all for some ritual. I see. And what was this ritual supposed to accomplish?
Yeah. Well, and then when I heard you interviewed, it all made sense to me. I was like, wow, heck yeah. They would have to be, no human could, really could fly a plane into a building and hit a specific floor. But
I know it is hard to believe, but it is true.
They wouldn't leave it to chance. They couldn't leave it to chance. They couldn't leave it like a pilot at the last minute going, "I'm not doing this." They couldn't. They had to be drones. They had to be regular sized planes, but drones.
Yeah.
So what was the crew for? Why did the hijackers who were caught on surveillance camera bother being trained at a flight school? What is your evidence that a large commercial aircraft could be wired as a drone?
Yeah, I was blown away, and I was taking notes, and I had it all written down, and I was teaching Sunday school at the time, and I would throw that in there, and explain to people about, just all of the things that I don't believe are coincidences,
You would throw the idea that the airplanes that struck the Twin Towers were drones without any proof and without any real evidence. It's not surprising you are no longer teaching at that Sunday school. Then they moved to include David Rockefeller for whatever reason. I guess they think somehow David Rockefeller is involved in the hijacking.
They quoted him on his thoughts on spirituality. And the entire time I'm listening to this whitewashed book, I'm getting interesting facts. Well, what could be facts? I'm not sure. That whole book could have been trash.
Well, for starters, facts are supported by evidence. Sometimes a fact is proven wrong by using evidence to disprove it. It's funny how you question facts from a person's own biography, but when multiple facts are overwhelmingly supporting of, I don't know, something like the hijacking of Flight 11 and Flight 175, which is recorded over and over again, supported by news footage, surveillance footage, documentation, phone calls, multiple eyewitnesses, FBI reports, police reports, flight recording, etc., etc., all of which would be nearly impossible to duplicate and make false. But no, those you don't believe. It's the biography which seems not legit.
If what I was reading was accurate, and I don't know that it is, I haven't done that much research on it.
May I suggest doing research on a topic before making a complete and utter fool of yourself on YouTube?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, we are working with some real detailed researchers here.
Amazing.
Wow. You know, when I first woke up, Rockefeller was one of the people that I researched, and then I
researched. Yeah, right.
I went, got his book at the library, and went to page 405 or whatever it is, man. His book is thicker than a phone book, man.
It's less than 550 pages long. I doubt you even read the whole thing, as most conspiracy sites always pull the same 63-word paragraph from page 405 and use it as some sort of smoking gun to support whatever paranoid globalist conspiracy they are trying desperately to legitimize.
And where he talks about, hey, you know, we want to, what is it he says? Yeah, we want to control the world. You know, he's like, guilty as charged. You know, if you heard a rumor, it's true.
He did not say, yeah, we want to control the world, guilty as charged. If you heard a rumor, it's true. The quote from page 405 you are seriously butchering and misquoting goes as follows. It's taken from Rockefeller's Memoirs, chapter 27, Proud Internationalist, section Populist Paranoia, from page 405. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon the well-publicized incidents, such as my encounter with Castro, to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a large, integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that is the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. The anti-Rockefeller focus of these otherwise incompatible political position owes much to popularism. Populists believe in conspiracies, and one of the most enduring is that a secret group of international bankers and capitalists and their institutions ruled during the half-century. He admits being guilty of furthering a global political and economic structure, mainly spreading the competitive marketplace that capitalism brings. He is also making light of the conspiracy theories levied against him.
Yeah, we want to control the world. You know, he's like, guilty as charged. You know, if you heard a rumor, it's true.
I can't remember where I heard this, and this might sound a little scatterbrained, but it's something I've wanted to parse out for a while, and it was about this whole idea that the...
Oh, good. He can't remember where he heard this, but I am sure whatever rumor he heard was completely valid and true.
Hand sign that Hitler did, you know, the mark of the Fuhrer, where people would elevate their hand towards him. I heard somebody one time explain how that was a magical symbol. And then I've been told by that same person, or I can't remember who it was or where if I read it or I listened to it, but that then they developed the peace sign in World War II that later in the 60s ended up turning into something, you know, got more popular. But in World War II, the peace sign was developed. And what I heard was that the peace sign was designed in some sort of Kabbalistic fashion to combat the magic that was being thrown off. But it was a symbol against a symbol. It was evidence of two magical factions warring against each other to some extent.
Oh, man.
Now, that may sound crazy.
It is crazy, but it really doesn't sound all that crazier than all the other nonsense you three are spewing about September 11, 2001. I'm going to be a little harsh with you guys, and I think you need to hear this. You have the potential to reach a worldwide audience. As of this recording, you have almost 4,000 subscribers, and you are speaking from partial memory, hearsay, and rumor. Don't you have any self-respect?
I don't know. I've just always wanted to see if I could vet that or find if there was was anything.
It's not that crazy. My understanding of that kind of salute is the Roman salute. The Nazi salute was the same as the Roman salute. You can actually see pictures of Americans saluting that flag with the raised arm.
That was the Bellamy Salute, used briefly before it was changed to the hand over the heart around the same time that Under God was added, sometime around 1954. A link below is added if you want to find out more.
You just have to go, and they got rid of it after the Nazis because of the kind of terrible, monstrous crimes that the Nazis did. But I know that the peace sign also has this esoteric meaning of a 23. 23 is 2/3 of 1666. So I've heard that.
No. The peace sign comes from the V for victory, palm away from you. Crowley claimed to have been behind the V for victory sign, but this has never been proven. It means 2 in sign language, and there is no esoteric meaning of 23 or 2/3 in Kabbalah. The reverse, with your palm facing you, is what I think of this dumb idea of yours. Bollocks. Free Willy here is making that shit up.
That's what that symbol actually means, but there were battles, magical battles. I mean, there were people fighting against Hitler. They were supposedly like some kind of famous witch gathering that was, put together to try to prevent the German invasion of England, and Crowley was involved with all these witches.
No. Okay, Free Willy. There is no record that Crowley was involved in this supposed gathering. During this time, from 1939 to 1943, he was working with Lady Frieda Harris, who was designing the Thoth Tarot deck. This gathering was supposed to have taken place by several covens known to Gardner on the evening of July 30th to August 1st of 1940. It is recorded in Gerald Gardner's book, Witchcraft Today. He makes no mention of Aleister Crowley being present. Neither does his biographers or Philip Heselton. Crowley himself makes no mention of it, and he kept rather detailed diary entries.
Doing these kind of strange rituals. That's never been confirmed, but it was interesting that they had their own kind of magical power, and the Germans clearly were involved in all that stuff. I mean, they just discovered that, the third in command, the head of the SS, they just found his 12,000 volume witch books in, they found him somewhere. I think it was in
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia. What was his name? It was
Heinrich Himmler. A link to Himmler's occult book collection is below.
What was the guy's name who was the head of the SS?
Heinrich Himmler. Notes are great when you're speaking on important topics in front of an audience. Just saying.
A Himmler?
Himmler, yeah. So they just found Himmler's library. It was all full of like witch books. And I talk about in Children of the Beast, I show that Hitler himself, and some of the books that have been left over from the war, he was reading a book that sounds a lot like Aleister Crowley's Magic and Theory and Practice.
There isn't any conclusive evidence I have come across of what Adolf Hitler was reading at his bedside. If he was reading this, and it's not just you trying to conflate something to further your personal narrative, then so what?
It was a book called Magic, Theory, Practice, and Ritual by a guy by the name of Schertl. So Hitler's underlining this. He's writing notes in this book. He's clearly...
He dog-eared the pages, was drawing little doodles in the margins. Yeah, we get it, Willie. I have no idea where Slick Willie here is getting this from. I researched this and tried to find what books Hitler read and highlighted. Regardless, William Ramsey is trying to infer some chain of causation. There are plenty of people who read occult books, and they don't become tyrannical madmen who want to take over the world. This is a pathetic false equivalency. I am sure Hitler read the Bible too. It doesn't mean it influenced him to invade Poland.
Been reading it before, and it has proclamations and declarations that are similar to Crowley's, and I actually compare stuff in Children of the Beast that show that these guys spoke a similar language. Crowley from the Book of the Law and Hitler would say the only proof of success is your only proof, so you always have victory. It doesn't matter what the means to that end are, and that's like a direct line right out of the Book of the Law, and that's kind of how Hitler operated.
Another sad inference. First of all, You mention a book that is supposed to be similar to Crowley's somehow. I guess the title sounds similar to another one of Crowley's books. Secondly, you are taking specific pieces of Aleister Crowley's writings and forcing some relevance where there is none. The wording Willie here is referring to comes from Crowley's Book of the Law. Your deals shalt oversee thyself, save only the blind ones, refuse none. Thou shalt know and destroy the traitors. I am Ra Hor Kahut, and I am powerful to protect my servant. Success is thy proof. And again in 46, he says, success is your proof. So this is the end of this video, and there is going to be either 2 more parts or 3 more parts to this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much, and blessed be.